he was so concerned about this, he traveled to Austin to speak with me, said the CIA planted those storylines on them. And he went on to say that, well, I mean, you watch the show, the government hijacks a jet to fly it in the World Trade Center to blame it on Afghanistan, and the government uses a drill, a terror drill, to make the rest of the government stand down, and that's actually what happened on 9/11. And so there is something to that. I appreciate your call. Anything else, Brian?
Man, appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Any comments on that, Lindsey? Because you say your source, who's a former oil company executive, told you it was an accident. You know, a globalist a lot of times will tell people the truth for a long time. Did we lose Lindsey or we lose Brian? Okay, Lindsey, you there? Do we have Lindsey?
I didn't hear the last of that because of a dial tone.
Yeah, I think we have a phone system hiccup there, but we'll work on that. I'm not saying this is what happened, but I mean, I know who your oil executive contact is. You've gotten good intel in the past. It's turned out to be very accurate. You know, you said a year before when oil was $60 a barrel that it was going to be $150, and that happened. And, of course, Bilderberg Group was saying similar things. And so these elites go in circles, you know, the same circles. But a lot of times these globalists will give people good info to then later at a key time give them true info but mix some lies in to put out disinfo. I mean, how does your oil company executive friend know that this wasn't staged?
87-year-old man has cancer, facing the grave. He has never told me anything that was wrong over the past 35 years. I have no choice to believe what he's saying right now. Atlantic Richfield, former, retired now, saying the same thing. There's one thing I learned, Alex, when I lived with the elite, and that is they do have a moral code. It's quite different than the moral code that you and I have. And one of the facets of their moral code is that they must tell the world everything they're going to do before they do it. Katrina, yeah, they had an oil storm just a few weeks before it and told you everything they were going to do. But the thing is, the average person does not know how to interpret what these people are saying. But they do tell you ahead of time what they're going to do. What happened in the Gulf, there was no ahead of time on this because this happened by accident. But they are going to use this now to accomplish their 2012 timeline.
All right, let's go back to your phone calls here. Let's talk with Jerry in Indiana. You're on the air, Jerry.
Oh, Alex, Prison Planet member for many years and bought 2 of your videos this week.
Thank you. Couldn't do it without you.
And we need you more than ever, Alex Jones, right now. I'm buying the videos, getting them copied. Lindsey Williams, I bought 2 of yours. I can't thank you enough for what you're doing, exposing this fraud and these elitists. My question is for Lindsey. Lindsey, the worst case scenario, I know this is going to be hard to answer, but if this, you know, this oil in the Gulf, if it meets up with a major hurricane, and Alex chime in here too, how far north will this oil go? I mean, is there any...
Well, I'm not a hydrologist, Jerry, and I'm not a meteorologist, but they've said that a hurricane could push this oil 20, 30 miles inland, up the estuaries, back up the rivers, and that a lot of it could be picked up in the storms and dumped in on the land. The good news is the oil is biodegradable. It does have some toxins in it, but there's all these millions of gallons of super toxic dispersant in it. It's going to be very destructive. Jerry, it sounded like your phone was fading out. Are you still there?
Yes, I'm still here. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Lindsey Williams, comment on what Jerry was just saying.
Well, it's not the oil itself that has this kind of reddish tint to it that's most concerning to me. It's what else is coming out of that well in the way of gases, toxic gases.
Well, that's right. They keep saying it's oil, but I mean, oil's...
all the way up to New York and all the way up the east coast of the United States of America.
Well, that's right, because it's not just what can be blown in by a hurricane. They admit that the tidal forces, go out of the Gulf, around Florida in those channels and travels up the East Coast.
Yes, that's true. In fact, it's going to devastate the tourist trade. A talk show host the other day said that a guest had canceled, would not be on his talk show that night. I said, why? He said she's a tourist travel agent on the Keys. When they found out she was going to be on his show, they threatened her and told her not to appear under any circumstances. She called and canceled out as a guest. This thing is getting to the point that it's going to be, I don't know what the overall effect will have, but it's not going to be pretty.
Well, I appreciate your call, Jerry. It's a very serious issue. And the word I was looking for was ocean currents. They know where the currents are going. The currents sometimes change a little bit, but worldwide, these currents for thousands of years have been very, very accurate. To the point in the Atlantic, ships knew you go to this point, you get in this current, and it basically takes you here. And that's why sailing ships, it might take them 2 weeks to cross the Atlantic, but then it might take them 6 months to get back across because they didn't have favorable winds or currents. And they know where those currents. Here's the Gulf of Mexico, if you're watching on PrisonPlanet.tv. Here's Texas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Florida. And the oil spills here off Mississippi, and the currents go down around the Keys, past Cuba. I mean, boy, Cuba and the Keys are really going to get it. And then because most of the oil's staying out to sea, and then it's going to go up, and then the currents come in very close to shore, all the way up the East Coast, up to Canada, and then up towards Greenland and Iceland and England and Northern Europe. And Northern Europe's going to be hit by this stuff in 3 or 4 months. And if that oil well just keeps going and going and going and going, there's just no telling the type of destruction it's going to cause. And then the whole world is going to want the American taxpayer to pay. You watch. Even though this is an international company. That's why it's dangerous to be blaming England for this, because if you can blame a nation, then you can blame a government rather than blaming these globalist corporations that are literally destroying our national governments. And I'm not defending our national governments. They're criminal as well. The point is, these corporations are even more lawless. Let's talk to Dave in Arizona. Dave, you're on the air with Lindsey Williams. Go ahead.
Hello, Alex. Hello, Lindsey. This is Dave out of Portside. Listen to you on 12.160. Lindsey, I have a question. In reference to the nuclear option, how many devices, how deep would they go? I assume that the nuclear devices would cause the whole thing to cave in on itself. Would it cause a tsunami? How big would the tsunami be, and would there be any fallout?
Some of those things they answered for me, some they did not. They merely said that they would angle drill down into the depth of the ocean. Now understand, you've got 5,000-foot water here that they're going to have to start with before they can even do that angle drilling. Then when they angle drill down, they would go down, I don't know, they did not say how deep, and plant this nuclear device, and it would actually, what should I say, solidify the soil to the point that hopefully it would close off all this tissue that has developed in this monstrous dome that they have down there that they've hit that nobody's ever hit before. So what the results of this are going to be, it's really an unknown world. Nobody has ever charted this before.
Does that answer your question? Okay, I guess it does. Up next is Dave in Arizona. Dave, you're on the air with Lindsey Williams. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Oh, it's Dick in Nevada. I already went to Dave. Go ahead, Dick.
Yeah, hello. Good to talk to you guys. I'm kind of curious that, they started talking about this hooded thing and trying to capture and save some of this, a couple months ago, and the use of other, countries and ships, that they could recover some of this stuff if they, wanted to make an attempt at it. It sure seems like they're using this as a convenient crisis. Probably going to sacrifice BP in the process, but in order to get this cap and trade or whatever tax they're going to jam on us. But with that hooded thing, it seemed to me like they would be able to pressurize and separate and save some of that oil, plus be able to probably burn off the other gases and the poisonous stuff.
Well, they admit now that they are going to create a flare to burn off. They were saying 10% of it, and they say they've got a hood over it that's getting some of the oil. There's just so much oil that it's basically trying to bail out a swimming pool using a teacup, and the swimming pool is always being refilled as you're there with a teacup trying to capture it. I mean, engineering-wise, though, it looks like it is a serious obstacle. And expanding on that, they did block the states. Lindsey, what's your take on that, how they block the states? One weekend, the states were wanting to go block their estuaries and protect the fisheries, protect the key areas in Louisiana, Mississippi. And the feds did come in and say, no, wait for our response, and did everything they could to block the response. Is that so there's a bigger disaster and the feds get more power? Because we saw the same thing with Katrina. What's your view on that?